Hey, what's up? Hmm. Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Hey, what's up, man? I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, you're good. I had
What's
to
going on,
switch.
man?
Nothing much. You?
Not much.
Awesome. So,
So,
yeah.
so I guess I would start off by asking why agnostic atheism as compared to simply agnosticism versus uh, nonconformist Christianity or uh, agnostic Christianity.
Okay. Well, I believe most
Turn it up.
agnostic.
Turn
I'm
it
kind
up.
of in the camp where I believe that agnostics generally, agnostic atheism is automatically kind of atheism. If you don't know something exists, you don't automatically believe in it. Typically,
Right.
for example, I don't know. It's kind of having like a word salad here. If we were to say something about UFOs, that I don't know if aliens exist on some other planet, but I don't automatically believe in it. I don't know, yet I don't believe in it as well. So I'm in that camp. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Yeah.
And I understand that example, but when it comes to religion, there's reasons to believe in religion as opposed to believing in aliens. Believing in aliens doesn't really do much for people, but believing in, say, a god, like in Christianity, has merit to people. It does things for people. You see
That's
what I'm
true.
saying?
Uh, I guess that
But
depends on what camp you're in. If that merit or that what it does to people is inherently good or bad. Myself, I sometimes fall in the camp of anti-theism, where I think that religion does more harm to society than it does good.
right, and it has a history of doing harm to society, but it
Yeah,
also provides you know, moral things and things like that. You know what I'm talking about.
yeah.
So, in today's society where we've advanced past a lot of the primitive, the Christian Crusades and all that stuff,
Yeah,
and we
yeah.
live in a structured society. Christianity in America is kind of a benevolent thing in my mind. I think a lot of people are very ignorant about it, and I think that people who strictly believe in Christianity without acknowledging the possibility that it's not true or it's not fact are kind of like living in a little bit of denial or ignorance there, or they're not open-minded enough.
So are you, just to get your position straight, you're agnostic, but agnostic theist, right? So you believe in a God, but you don't know for certain that it
Yes,
exists. Okay, and
yes,
and of course Christian. So your agnostic Christian would be more the most exact
yeah, but I've been told
title.
to avoid the word. I've been told to avoid the word agnostic because it has a
But
connotation
yeah,
which is
I think it's an honest title. I would definitely give it that. It's uh, so I don't know. To me, that's hard to put together because isn't in Christianity doubt inherently sinful? Or
you know what? I'm not even that much of a Christian to be able to
yeah,
tell you the answer to that. Like,
okay,
I kind of just like the story, to be honest. I like the hope that it gives me. I like the view
okay,
behind it. I like the idea of. I know it sounds selfish to say, but an afterlife. It gives me hope.
yeah.
And it gives me a
Uh,
reason to. I don't base my morality off of my religious belief. I base my morality off of the physical world, but it kind of
so kind of a
justifies my
humanist
morality.
worldview.
Yeah, I guess not
Well,
exactly human, but
like I would do to others what other I would want others to do to me. Something like that.
yeah,
Not
yeah,
like so it doesn't come straight from your
it doesn't
religious
come straight from
text.
my religious. No,
Okay, all right. Huh. I mean that's a rare position to hold, for sure.
Yeah, no, not. I've never
Yeah.
run across anybody that's had the same viewpoint as I do.
Now, I mean, I do find it strange. It's really hard. It's kind of weird to argue against. I don't, like if you acknowledge that there's doubt about that religious. Well, can I ask you this? Was Pascal's Wager an influence? If do you know what that is, or?
Like I said, like I told you in the private message, I'm pretty ignorant of philosophy and metaphysics.
Well, like Pascal's Wager, it says that pretty much it's better to believe because just in case there is a hell, you know.
Yeah, I would agree with that to an extent. I think.
Okay.
But it wouldn't completely, control me, or it wouldn't make my views stem from that. I guess,
All right. And kind of one more question. Why Christianity? Why not any other religion that might make you feel hopeful for an afterlife or?
Probably because of culture, what I was raised in.
Yeah, that's fair.
I wasn't raised in a what is it? What is the religion? Islam. I wasn't raised in
yeah.
Islamic community. I was raised in a Christianity community, and Christians believe very firmly that their religion is the true religion, and that Christ is the Holy Trinity, and they believe that to be very firm. While Islam doesn't believe inherently in Jesus in the way that Christians do. So it's kind of like taking a chance, like you said with the you cited some philosophical view.
Yeah.
Of what did you say? The guy that you cited? He said
Pascal's Wager. Yeah.
Yeah, Pascals Wager. You cited him. So it's kind of like taking a chance with that. Like if I don't follow Christianity, would I be able to make it to the afterlife?
Yeah.
So that's kind of part of my thought process.
And what if you're wrong? That's the most common. What if you're wrong about that religion?
And that Islam was correct?
Yeah. Well, anything,
Well, then my hope would be that whatever God is actually true would be forgiving enough to forgive me for my ignorance.
Okay. Sorry, I'm kind of like asking you because like yours is a straight, like it's rare to run into that agnostic Christian perspective.
Please ask as many questions as you want, man. I'm sure I have plenty of you.
Do you think it's reasonable to believe in something that you really don't have evidence in? It's logical or to do?
I do.
You do?
I do.
What is your foundation? Well, like, what is your logic behind it? I feel like you kind of... I know, like, you want hope in an afterlife, right? It gives you that hope. But what makes it reasonable to do that? What makes it logical?
The fact that it's a the Christian story, and not even a specific religion in general, just a God, is a possibility. That would you agree that is logical?
As an agnostic,
to say that it's a possibility.
It's a possibility. Sometimes I have a hard time answering that question because I find I'll give a full answer to that. I find no reason to believe in it now, but it is a possibility. Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
You have the same kind of thing going on that my friend has going on.
Yeah.
That I told you about. And he I was not able to counter argue him. I could try to fill you in on his viewpoint. It might even strengthen what you think.
Okay.
But we'll do that later.
All right.
Because I'd like to hear from you first before inputting anybody else's views.
Oh, that's fair.
But the logic behind it is that it's simply a possibility, and it's a valid possibility, And I think that disbelieving in a valid possibility is possibly illogical in itself.
Okay. How about this? Would you disagree? Okay, this is the same position I have to hold. That unicorns possibly exist. Could they possibly exist?
Yes.
They could. That's the same thing with God, right? Well, at least in my perspective, it's the same thing. That they could possibly exist. But why don't you believe in unicorns? Now, I know that religion and, these different examples that I'm giving hold, fundamentally different things to how it's going to affect you personally.
But I know you're talking strictly based on logic.
Logic, yeah. So strictly logic, yeah. I mean, there's no reason to believe in it now, but it could exist.
Well, the answer to your question is obviously because there's no evidence.
Yeah.
But that brings my question. Oh, I just dropped my webcam.
That's cool.
I have a little clunker webcam. My question to you would be, is evidence a necessary prerequisite for logic?
Are you talking in strictly like an empirical or reason, like empiricism versus reason sense? Like, logic versus I see it?
Yeah. Some of it. Sorry. Yeah, I can't get the state of my monitor.
I'm not strictly an empiricist, but no, not all the time. No, because so things like logical structures, things we use, like math,
right?
Things like that. I would say that they're inherently reason-based and can be used as evidence, but there's no physical evidence for them. So no, I guess I have to answer that as no.
And that's the scientific view. But then again, if we're talking on the terms of math and science, scientists don't consider anything logical or illogical.
Yeah, that's true, because some of the greatest scientific discoveries have been probably the most, something that is entirely against, what is it, for example, trying to think of a good one. Einstein's quantum theory. Not quantum theory.
String theory would be a good one.
General relativity. Yeah, the string theory is another one as well. That it just doesn't. Most scientific discoveries would not make sense without going off this out of the box, type thinking.
Right.
Yeah.
So what we have to remember here is that what you and I are having is a colloquial argument.
Yeah.
I think, right?
Yeah.
Because unless you want to challenge the scientific method with me.
Yeah.
Which I have considered. Is this, evidence, and scientists not considering anything logical or illogical. I believe that everything is logical.
I can't agree with that. I mean, there's some things that go against moral foundation. Like philosophers, they've laid down basically. When you lay out a proof, you lay down logical steps, and each one has to confirm the first one. The first one has to be true for the next one to be true, and so on and so on and so on. Right? Everything can't be logical, or you would get to very strange and basically ridiculous conclusions, right? Would you agree that if we laid down a statement, we wanted to prove something But let's say in math, right? It's something I'm interested in. But if the first statement to prove that 1 plus 1 equals 2 is 1 is less than 0, that would be ridiculous, right? It's not logical.
Right.
Like, not everything can be logical. There's a foundation we have to follow to say something is real or not real. You get what I'm saying?
Right, and that's why it's a semantics argument. And
yeah, and I don't like semantics. Most people don't like arguing with semantics.
I honestly do like arguing semantics because I find semantics to be very important.
Yeah, but it always hinders conversation, I think.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, and it is.
But that's why it's also important to differentiate the fact that we're having a colloquial argument.
Yeah.
I think.
This is more of like a discussion than a debate, probably at this point. But
no, discussion, argument, discussion, debate, whatever.
Yeah. So it would be reasonable to say you have faith, right, in Christianity. Your religious doctrine. Belief without evidence, is that?
Yeah.
Belief without evidence, okay. Now, like, how far have you gone into Christianity?
Not very far.
Not really? Like, when did this start? When did you, like, start believing? That's a nice thing to know.
Around 18. I'm 24 now, so I really started getting into the things with my friend online that I told you about. I've been known him for. I've known him for 4 years. Really smart guy. He's just he's kind of nailed it. I know how to pronounce the word, but nihilistic kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah, we debated and stuff, and I got into it with that, and I really started thinking about things. So that's when I really started putting together my own beliefs.
Okay. Now, were you always agnostic about religion?
Yeah, before that, I was always agnostic.
Really? Just, okay.
Before I started really getting into debates with a couple of my friends online, I did not attribute Christianity to my agnosticism.
Okay. All right.
So is there any reason that you could think of why it would be wrong or logically invalid to think the way I do?
Why it would be invalid to think the way you do?
Yeah.
Structurally, okay. So, I don't know. I've always... the idea that when you make a claim, like, I guess in this case, you'd be making the claim that, Christianity is true, right? Logically, always, the person who makes the claim has that burden of proof, right? You've probably heard this before if you've looked in debates and stuff like that. So if you make a claim, you have to back that up. If there's no reason, if there's no way you can back up that claim, why believe it? That's just my philosophy. If you can't back it up logically, reasonably, that it's kind of ridiculous to put your faith into it.
Right. Yeah, you have the same viewpoint as my friend.
Yeah.
That just really goes back to my belief that evidence is not required for logic, and that's backed scientifically. Even though scientists don't consider anything logical or illogical. And belief is really just a matter of choice, man. I mean, you can believe whatever you want. Why can't? Why couldn't I? Why would I be wrong to believe in Christianity?
Yeah. Can I ask you a few, like, I don't know, kind of how your religion is shaped, maybe a scientific view or whatnot, like questions about that?
Yeah, sure.
Like, what's your stance on evolution, so to say? Or
I believe in it.
You do or you don't?
I do.
Oh, you do? Okay. So it is like, you're like a non-fundamental...
Right.
Okay, yeah. And that's where I have more problems with Christianity, where it shapes Like, you can be, like, you know, if that's, like, if it gives you hope.
You have a problem with the ignorant Christians.
Yeah, well, yeah, who probably take, you know, their word, a complete, total faith, every, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Who haven't, and tend to not, when I come across people who do believe and don't believe in maybe certain scientific evidences that have, I would say have been proven by now, don't really understand those concepts, or, you know. So yeah, pretty much. That's where my problem with religion comes in. It's never been like a, you know, it's this when it affects your critical faculties, so to say.
Because I don't know how true Christianity is. I can't make any claim of how true Christianity is. I don't know that God in Genesis 1:1 created the earth and that humans didn't evolve. And from what we have evidence of evolution, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
Evolution is fact, if I'm not mistaken. If it's not fact, it's very well documented.
So you're kind of right. We kind of like align along the same premises. It's just that I don't put my faith in something that, you know, I can't prove.
Yeah,
so we're just living. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why I said we might be able to come to a head-to-head quite quick.
Yeah.
Because both of our views are equally valid. You're simply choosing not to believe in something that you don't have evidence for, and I'm choosing to believe without evidence. Okay.
Yeah. But I guess the problem with that when it comes to debate is we're talking about something that can't be proven or disproven.
Mm-hmm.
But I think when it gets into, like, if you're arguing, myself, if I'm arguing with someone who's very fundamentally, you know, in that religion, you can, you know, argue against claims that religion makes. You know, for example, evolution is not true versus it is true, or, you know.
Yeah, but see, I don't make those claims.
Yeah, and I guess that's where, you know, so I guess it's a very similar worldview. I don't.
It is.
I just can't get past the reason behind believing in something you have no evidence for, and how you can logically defend that.
It simply comes down to whether it serves purpose for you or not.
Okay. But you take none of the moral guidelines? Okay, like, for example, homosexuality, is that wrong or right to you? Like, I think you said this before, that it doesn't matter, or like the moral code in the Bible doesn't matter to you, right? Am I wrong in saying that, or?
I agree with some of it, and if the Bible says that homosexuality is a sin, then my belief would be that Jesus died on the cross to forgive everybody of their sins. So.
Okay. So it does affect your worldview in some way? Like, I don't.
We'll be able to explain it more when we delve more into it, because I'm thinking about it myself.
Yeah. Okay.
The moral principles in the Bible are really nothing more than generic moral guiding principles that any Joe Smo could have thought up with no concept of God, in my opinion.
Okay, that's my view of
yeah.
You know, so
is there what?
Yeah.
Is there something that you still don't understand, or like you're not wrapping your mind around my view?
I mean, like I said, like the only issue I really have, because it seems that we come to the same conclusion, you know, I don't know, well, morally, you know, you may be influenced, but it doesn't seem to necessarily
stem from the Bible.
Is it going to affect your vote or anything like? Yeah, it doesn't stem from the Bible.
My view would be that my morality could come from the Bible, or it could be something that, like, I always see two sides to everything. I always see two sides, at least two sides, to everything, every possibility.
Yeah.
So my morality could be based on the Bible, or it could just be based on the moral code that I developed, or that has been
Yeah.
developed in society.
Okay. So yeah, really, if I was being honest, the only issue I have is placing faith in something that you have no evidence in. And I just don't, like I've said it like 3 times now, that I can't see that it being logically reasonable to do so. And I know it gives you hope, it does these things, but that doesn't make it true, and you've acknowledged that, so...
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a really weird position. Like, I've not come across it, so I find, it's hard to argue against, and but it's interesting. Well, some history for me. I used to be a fundamentalist Christian when I was younger. You may argue how that's probably changed as I got older, but it completely, my worldview completely, switched. So I mean, just to agnostic Christian, I never see that. I live in the South, so
Right.
so you would be more liberal in your worldview, I guess, right?
Oh yeah, I'm
Yeah.
liberal.
Yeah. Is there any questions you have for me, or?
See, I can't ask you any questions because you're agnostic, and when you if you were strictly atheist, then I would be saying, how are you being logical in not believing in a valid possibility? That would be what I would ask you. But since you're an agnostic atheist, you're not making any claim of knowing or not knowing.
Okay. It's true. But I mean, like, I would fall back on my definition for that. Like, it's possible, but I think it's illogical to jump to the, there's no reason to believe it. I believe there's, like, at all now, there's no reason whatsoever to believe it. But I guess if I was being reasonable, I would have to say, yeah, it's possible. I think most atheists would say that. Would I be wrong?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, they do.
Yeah.
They do.
They're an agnostic to some extent. It's just that when someone takes a religious stance, they usually go completely Gnostic. I know this to be true, and then start making those claims.
And start making claims and assumptions from there.
Yeah. But it's definitely interesting to see that. How do you think in the future your views will? Do you think you're going to stay agnostic, or as religious to some extent, or you think it's possible that? Because you, as someone in my perspective, you're someone's view who could probably easily be switched or maybe flip-flopped and may dive back and forth. I don't know. I'm just making like a,
Well, no, my friend almost convinced me that atheism was the correct choice, but I still held firm to my belief that, evidence was not a requirement for logic, and that even if all things are possible and the word logical has no meaning, logic is simply a process. It's like something that Plato would say, where logic would simply be an idea, a representative idea, instead of something that has to be that's restricted by human consciousness. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, how about this? How about this view? I could acknowledge that a God possibly exists, right?
Yes.
But when it comes to religious texts, I think those can be shown to be false. Do you think that's possible?
How would you falsify those?
To disprove claims that are made within them, right? So if the Bible claims to be an inherent word of God, written by God, and everything's right in it, and if you can make a statement, logically show that something is wrong, prove that it's wrong, does that make it the word of God anymore? I would think not. But so I think that's why I don't, I can't say anything for religion. I'm strictly, I don't believe in any religions, right? So like you said, you believe in evolution, and So if you believe in evolution and that the Earth is old, all the modern scientific data we have now, why is there any reason to believe that Genesis is, valuable or useful or anything like that?
Well, Genesis is simply a, for lack of a better term, theory of how the universe and the world was created. I don't know if the Bible is the Word of God to me or not. Okay. But the way I see Genesis is more of a theory akin to the Big Bang.
So you don't know if the Bible is the Word of God?
I would say.
You would say. Then how are you, that's really, I come from a place of fundamental Christian, so how can you be a Christian and not believe that it's the Word of God?
How would I explain that? Just by simply believing in the story. I choose to believe, and I honestly hate to say that, the magical sky fairy just created the world and all this stuff.
Yeah.
I don't like the Old Testament. My taking and my liking to Christianity came through the New Testament, through the teachings of Jesus and him dying on the sin to forgive everybody, dying on the cross to forgive everybody of their sins. But when it comes to like a claim of how the universe was created, where would I stand on that? And is it even provable? Would humans ever know? I don't find myself taking particularly to saying that God created the world compared to anything else.
Okay.
But that's basically what you already know about me.
But Christianity requires, the way I know it, that it requires the belief that everything. So you do believe in the resurrection story, right? Like to be a Christian, you believe that that story is real. He died on the cross. He came back 3 days later. You believe that story, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's entirely on faith, right?
That's entirely on faith, yes.
Entirely on faith. No evidence for it. Or you don't see any evidence for it anyway. Like that, I don't know, it's so
I know, it's like I said, I have not met many people that think the way I do.
Yeah, I like myself, coming from a fundamentalist southern town, that would be blasphemy. Well, no, it would be entirely on faith, but not taking everything else, as the literal, actual, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know.
But your problem comes down to the logic of it.
Yeah, is it reasonable to just take that on faith? How do you do that,
Well, my question to you would be, does faith have to be logical or reasonable?
Does faith have to be logical? No, I think it's inherently not logical or reasonable. I mean, I think it's the antithesis of reason.
Okay, and that's where I disagree with you, because my logic behind it is that, well, not faith, because faith, I guess, but the story is a valid possibility. My logic behind Christianity is simply that it's validly possible. That is the reason why I, as a person who considers myself to have half a brain, believes in Christianity. If I didn't think that it was a valid possibility and I was just blindly believing it, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, but there's so many things that are possible. We could say are possible, and we could say that reasonably, but there's no reason to believe it. Like if I made up some story now, and give it some religious context, and it gave people hope, but I just made it up right here in my room and then published it, and people said it was inherently possible and started believing it, that doesn't make it reasonable or logical to do that.
Well, whatever story that you would have made up would be a possibility.
It would be a possibility. We could say that about a lot of things. Yeah.
Yeah, you could say that about everything.
Yeah.
Which, therefore, in my opinion, makes it logical. Do you disagree that it's logical because of that?
Yes.
Why?
Because, I mean, how do you prove it to be true? Like
that goes back to asking the question: is evidence required for logic?
Okay. Well, hang on. For I always go back to that case. Everything is a possibility, but there's reason. So you think that just because it is a possibility, it's logical to believe in it, right? Like
yes.
that's your stance. Just because it's a possibility, it could have
it's very simplistic, and it can be backed by metaphysics, and there's actual logical reasoning. Like, have you heard of the 5 ways of Aquinas? That's considered.
Yeah.
That is considered logical reasoning, I believe.
Yeah.
For God.
Okay. Well, I mean, some people could say that, but I'm going to be honest. It's hard to tell you why that's illogical, but my foundation is that it has to be provable, because there's so many things that, always that example, that analogy, that if I had and you've probably heard it a lot if you've looked in debates, because it's repeated so often that, if I claim that there's a fairy that lives in my closet that's only there when I look at him and you can never see him, it's possible, or that's only there when I don't look at him, that's the correct way to say it. It's possible, but there's no logical reason to believe it.
Right. There's no logical reason to believe it, but that doesn't make it illogical. That's my opinion.
But if there's no logical reason to believe it, how is it not illogical? I mean, if it's not illogical, is it logical to believe it?
Well, without illogical, there is no logical. And therefore, the definition... This is what my friend told me. I'll fill you in on what my friend told me. Without illogical, there is no logical. And therefore, you could say that everything is possible. And therefore, the word logical would have no meaning. Now, from there... And the question I was not able to think of or bring up with him was, does logic have to have meaning in terms of human consciousness, or can logic be an abstract idea?
Logic needs to have evidence.
Shut up, Ryan.
I mean, do you think it's an abstract idea?
I think it... I'd have to think about that. Logic is definitely a concrete term with human definition behind it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in my view, it's technically an idea. Humans created it. Humans, set the foundations to it. So, I guess.
Here's a question: Do you think that mathematics is logic?
Yes, it's. But and then, well, you go on.
Could mathematics, could the concept and the idea of mathematics be valid and exist without humans? Without human comprehension involved. If humans were not existent on the face of the planet,
would math still exist?
Would math still apply?
That's an interesting concept, and I don't know how to answer that. I really don't. It's a tool that humans, I think, have designed to, whatever they're measuring, right? So no, it wouldn't exist. But I guess you could argue that physics have always had those rules. Yeah.
Yes.
those rules have always existed. We've just created the language to understand
The
it.
language.
That's yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Like, I'm in college, and my tutor told me that if we were to interface with an alien race, no matter how much more advanced they were than us, our mathematics and their mathematics would not disagree with each other.
That's true. That would.
Therefore, you can consider logic something that can exist outside of human comprehension. Like, logic can exist to aliens even if humans weren't around. Therefore, that stems to my belief that a belief in a God is logical.
Well, how do you go from that to belief in God is logical? Just because logic exists before.
It's literally like following the train from the top down. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
From trends outside of human comprehension and then taking it down into the human world. It kind of like follows a train, like a line. You know what I mean? If you can picture it that way.
Yeah. Well, in some way, I would what your friend said. I guess that's fundamentally my worldview, that logic needs evidence, right? Logic is just steps of evidence. You know, anytime you're trying to prove something, it's just this says, you know, this is true, so this must be true, so this, thus, you know, whatever, so on, so on, so on, right? That makes something logical because it can be, you know, it can be proven. That's what makes it that. At least that, in my view, is what logic is, right? I think when this time runs out, does that mean it's over?
I'm pretty sure I did a non-time debate.
Oh.
Wait. Oh, there is a timer on it.
Yeah, I seen like 2 minutes. 50, yeah, because I think we just got into the meat of what the steak and potatoes here.
We can always start another one. Something I think that you'd be very interested in to look at is something that I very recently found. It's a new branch of philosophy that was coined in 2007, and I forget exactly what it's called. I have it right here. Hang on.
So I can write it down.
Now, there's not a lot of information on it,
yeah,
and a lot of the blogs and the people that you're going to be seeing talking about it are, you know, they don't know what the hell they're talking about, and they're ignorant of philosophy and metaphysics, so don't go all out on that.
Okay, yeah.
But try to take what I've said
mm-hmm.
and apply it to when you're researching it.
Okay.
It's called speculative realism.
Speculative realism, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, is there like official sources for it, or?
Yes, it's been coined at an official meeting of philosophers.
Oh, okay. And do you know any authors or anything behind it, or just kind of just research it, or maybe?
Yeah, I can pull them up for you right now.
All right. We've got 1:20.
Confratel, the Goldsmith College, University of London. The 4 people who were involved were Ian Hamilton Grant, Graham Harmon, Quentin Melisso, and there's some other guy. I'm probably just missing over his name. Oh, Ray Braswell. So there's 4 people involved who ended up coining the term speculative realism.
Okay, all right.
It's right there on the email.
Yeah, I think I'll definitely look that up because I enjoy some philosophy every now and then. I think we only got 30 seconds, but
yeah, but we can just start another one if you want to keep discussing. If there's anything that you still want to discuss.
Yeah, we can do that. Is there anything you still want to, or like I think where we were there, I think that could carry on.
Yeah, I could still carry on.
All right.
All right, let's let this timer run out and see if it actually stops us.
Okay.
I'm gonna grab another cigarette too.
All right.
I don't usually.